This might be my most ambitious video. I'm going to show you why this is probably the best value knife you can buy currently. I'm going to also highlight these incredible scales from Original Goat, and I also plan on picking the biggest fight with the knife community humanly possible. We got a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and get started. This is no longer a hidden gem. I think it has been reviewed ad nauseum at this point, but I want to put the nail in the coffin. This is probably the best value knife that you can buy in the premium range, between $100 and $200. At $127 to $135 for this particular variant, you're not going to find anything better. I mean that. You're literally not going to find anything better at that price point. It's that much of an outlier compared to everything else that is currently available. Made in the United States, crossbar lock, fully ambidextrous with the standard scales, and an incredible blade grind that is very slicey and useful day to day. I cannot say enough about how well they have built this Hogue Deca. And I like everything about it. All T8 construction, which I absolutely love, even in the pocket clip area. Extra grippy thumb studs and lock bar pulls, which some people don't like, but personally, if I have slippery environment, I want to have the most grab I can get. Look, this is the right knife. If you're going to go premium, this is probably the first one I would recommend, because you're not going to get a better value. And the experience that will come from using MagnaCut will forever change you. It is that good. It's not being overstated by the community. MagnaCut breaks the traditional give and take of steel. If you're not familiar, there are basically four aspects of steel: the ease of maintenance, or ease of sharpening, corrosion resistance, edge retention, and toughness. And usually when it comes to the last three, edge retention, toughness, and corrosion resistance, you're going to have to give up one of the three. You can't usually have all of them. MagnaCut breaks that in half because it is tough, it is corrosion resistant, and it has incredible edge retention. As far as I know, there is no other steel currently in existence as of 2023 that is able to do this. And at a lower HRC, it's also pretty easy to maintain. And I can say from personal experience, compared to M390 or some of these other harder edge retaining steels, it is substantially easier to maintain. We're going to get into that a little bit, and that's going to lead into the bone I have to pick with the community. MagnaCut. This was created primarily by Laren Thomas. If you're not familiar, there's great content all over the internet on this steel. Highly recommend to watch so you can learn more about it. Now, let's move on from the knife. I hope at this point, I shouldn't have anyone arguing with me that this is one of the best value knives currently in existence. I think we've all established that. But when you get it with the FRN scales, there's one major drawback. There is a lot of flex, especially down in the back where there is no metal reinforcement. Enter Original Goat. And there's other people who make scales, but I don't think anyone else is making them for the Deca yet, as far as I know. Check these things out. Aluminum with an awesome floating back spacer. That is just beautiful. And they all line up on the back. Right hand for this particular model, sort of a, what do they call this? I forget the type of patterning, but I love it. And the edges are fully chamfered. No flex whatsoever. Zero. No flex. Okay? Amazing. It changes this knife entirely. Jared from Neebs Knives said the exact same thing. This knife was already really good. You put these scales on, it's a whole new level of good. So I definitely recommend spending less on the knife with getting the FRN scales, and then maybe getting a premium setup to attach. This could be the top of your collection. You don't have to go any higher. It is literally that good when we're talking about performance. And that's kind of where I want to take this to the last few minutes of this particular video. I got a bone to pick with this knife community. I really do. I see it too often. People in the comments saying, if it's not blank hardness, it's garbage. I hear that a lot, especially with MagnaCut. In fact, the pressure on Hogue has been so great, the next generation of Hogue Decas, they're gonna make between 63 and 64 HRC. Now look, Hogue's gotta do what it's gotta do to sell knives. I don't blame them for that at all. But the statement that if it's not that hard, it's garbage is completely nonsensical, and it makes no sense at all. Okay, let me back up here for a second. Pete from Cedric Ada just tested this exact knife on his channel, getting 800 cuts with his 17-degree edge on twisted tensile rope. 800 cuts. Relative to the other knife steels that he has tested, that is leaps and bounds better than the majority. And I mean, when I say the majority, I mean like 80% or more of the steels have less edge retention than this knife did at 61 to 62, which is what it currently is. And there's huge advantages to having a slightly lower HRC or hardness. You get more toughness, more corrosion resistance, and it's easier to sharpen by more sharpening implements. Like if you have a stone that is a slightly lower hardness, it's going to be far easier to maintain this edge. That's what you're giving up by going to the higher numbers. And there's a point, and I think 800 is way above that point, by the way, where you're not gaining anything from a functional perspective. You're already at the point where in standard use, even if I use that knife 10 times a day, it's gonna take weeks for me to need to even sharpen the damn thing. Yet you need more edge retention? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. In fact, there isn't a single application for knife steel that requires edge retention above 800 cuts, like the equivalence of whatever this is. There is no application day to day where you could possibly dull this knife that doesn't involve trying to make the edge dull. In other words, you're doing something with the knife specifically to make it dull. There's just nothing out there. I can't think of a single job, a single profession, or a single application where I would need to cut something that much. It's just not, I can't think of a single application where it happens. And I have tried this. I have asked tons of people to find me a reason that I could justify it. And frankly, when you hit a certain number, and I think that 800 is safe, is very conservative, is more than enough edge retention for literally anything you could possibly want. So why would you add even more? It doesn't make any sense at all. And that's the bone I want to pick. Stop saying that it's 63 or bust. That's crazy. And it's not that I'm not backed up by this. If you watch Jared over at Neves Ives, or you watch Pete at Cedric Ada, they don't say, this is the best. They don't say that. You'll never hear them say that. You will never hear Nick Shabazz say that. What they will say is this. They will say, I prefer the steel to be at blah, or this. And that's okay. Perfect personal preference, go for it. You will never hear a knife reviewer say, this is the best, because they know that there are contexts for everything. That wouldn't make any sense. And the hell would have to freeze over before Laren Thomas goes out and says, no, this is the best heat treatment. That's never going to happen. You're never going to hear that out of a scientist, ever. So please, feel free to take it down to the comments. Find me something where you're doing it day to day that means you need more than this. I'm betting you can't find it. I don't know what I'm betting, but I still have yet to hear a single argument for needing more edge retention than this. Once you reach a certain point, why not maximize the other aspects? Toughness, corrosion resistance, ease of sharpening. That's my thoughts. Thanks again to Original Goat for these amazing scales and backspacer. It just completes this knife perfectly. I absolutely adore it. Now I need to get another screw from Hogue, which I somehow lost way before I did the replacement. But holy moly, if you're going to get one of these, you should definitely consider upgrading. It will change your experience entirely. It takes it from amazing to perfect. And I would dare say this is about as close as I've gotten to the ideal EDC knife. Just my personal opinion.